Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm happy to stand up and move second reading of Bill 202, Conflicts of Interest, Ethical Governance Amendment Act 2025. The bill is asking the Assembly to stand up for ethical governance in Alberta. It is the No More Skyboxes bill. When we become MLAs, we take an oath of office. It's a commitment to selfless service to Alberta and to the rule of law. That oath reminds us that we govern not by force or favour, but by laws that protect the public interest. Albertans expect their elected officials to act with integrity, transparency, and accountability. When that trust is broken, democracy suffers. Bill 202, the Conflicts of Interest Ethical Government Amendment Act, is about restoring that trust and ensuring that public service remains a public duty, not a private opportunity. In our democracy, elected representatives don't govern alone. We rely on trusted advisors and political staff to help us do the work of governing. That's why it's so important that those individuals, especially those closest to the Premier, are held to the same ethical standards as elected officials. Unfortunately, the UCP has not been the case for them. In 2023, one of Premier Smith's first moves was to pass legislation that gutted the Ethics Commissioner's authority in Alberta. That decision paved the way for Hockeygate and the corrupt care scandal. When we learned that the Premier and Cabinet Ministers were accepted skybox tickets to Oilers playoff games from a businessman who is receiving sole source government from contracts from the province. That's not public service, it's self-service, and it's unacceptable. Here's the irony. MLAs are prohibited from using constituency office budgets to buy NHL tickets. It's explicitly forbidden. But the UCP saw that rule and must have thought, if we can't use public money, there must be someone else that will pay for it. It's ludicrous. And it didn't stop there. In 2023, the UCP quietly raised the threshold for undisclosed gifts from $200 to $500 and for event tickets from $500 to $1,000. They moved these allowances into cabinet-controlled regulations, meaning they could change the rules without legislative oversight. That's not transparency, that's self-interest. These changes have widened the door for influence peddling and insider perks, while ordinary Albertans are left wondering who their government really works for. Albertans expect integrity. Instead, they've seen skyboxes and perks. Bill 202 is about restoring that trust and ensuring that public service remains a public duty, not a private opportunity. This legislation did not appear in a vacuum. It comes after repeated failures by the current government to uphold their most basic ethical standards. If the rules allow insiders to ship champagne in skyboxes while lobbyists pick up the tab, then the rules aren't protecting Albertans. Bill 202 slams that door shut. It expands the definition of conflict of interest to include not just the actual conflict as in the rules, but the perception of conflict, because perception matters. Section 2 of the bill addresses the furthering of a private interest. It makes it clear if there is a reasonable perception that a member's ability to make a decision is affected by a private interest, that member must declare the interest and withdraw from the meeting if it is determined by the conflict to be a conflict by the independent ethics commissioner. No more hiding behind technicalities, no more pretending that it looks bad, but isn't enough to warrant a decision or action. The bill also strengthens disclosure rules. Under Section 7, any gift or benefit over $100 must be disclosed to the ethics commissioner within 15 days and approved before it can be kept. Gone are the days when ministers could accept expensive perks under the guise of protocol. The ethics commissioner must now ensure that there is no reasonable perception of a breach before approving the retention of a gift. That's accountability in action. And the premiers and minister staff, those unelected insiders who wield enormous influence, for them, Bill 202 will introduce a mandatory code of conduct under Section 23.41. This code sets maximum cash values for gifts, requires disclosure of anything over $100, and prohibits gifts from lobbyists or anyone with business before the Crown. It even empowers the Ethics Commissioner to investigate breaches and report them publicly. Amendments made to Section 3 address the potential for an MLA to use their position to influence any decision, not just decisions made by or on behalf of the Crown. These are not optional guidelines. They are enforceable standards designed to protect the public interest. If you're not ready to serve Albertans with integrity, then you should go work somewhere else, because this place is not for you. Yes, there are moments when Canadians want to see our leaders at major events, so pay for the ticket or disclose the gifted ticket and get approval of the Ethics Commissioner to use it. That's how it should be. Simple, transparent, accountable. Why does this matter? Because democracy depends on trust. When Albertans see politicians enjoying skybox perks while claiming it's all legal, that trust evaporates. When ethics rules are treated as suggestions instead of obligations, cynicism grows. And when cynicism grows, participation falls and our democracy weakens. Bill 202 is about reversing that trend. It's about saying loudly and clearly that integrity matters. This bill is a step towards rebuilding trust. And let's be clear, ethical and transparent governance should never depend on which party is in power. It must be the foundation of our democracy. So, Madam Speaker, let's bring high standards back to Alberta. Let's restore the power of the Ethics Commissioner and recommit ourselves to selfless service. Albertans deserve nothing less. I urge all members to support this legislation and send a message to Albertans that their government and the members of the Legislative Assembly work for them, not for well-connected UCP insiders. Bill 202 is a good thing. It will be good for democracy. It will increase transparency. It will increase accountability. Let's prove that accountability still matters in Alberta.